another DevSec podcast.
Hello. Hello, DevSec. Okay, cool. So, yeah, 2 people, presentation.
Okay, we're going to talk about HTTP and then little curly brackets S servers, so both of them, and web proxies on Linux.
Yeah.
You've heard of these Nginxes and these Apaches, but where do they live? Can we make that? I'm just going to eat. Oh, no.
Shane,
There we go. What is web? Web is everywhere. Web is omnipotent. Web is the future. It's also anything you access with a web browser that has an HTTP or HTTPS prefix. That's a general definition, I guess. Like this Google thing is a web page, website. Anything you probably see that you use on a daily basis is probably a web app in some form or another. Even if you download like Spotify or something, that uses web technologies in like Electron. So whatever. Essentially, you need you need servers to send you these HTTP things to render. So the servers send the HTML, whatever.
So, why web? Web's everywhere. Everything uses it. Google made Chrome OS, which is like all about web. Like that's the only thing it does.
The only thing it does. What the heck?
Yeah. So, in basically every competition, not just ours, but like basically every competition, there's an Apache or Nginx scored service, just a simple website or a complicated garbage website. And a lot of CTF challenges are also web challenges, so there's like that web exploitation category.
Oh yeah.
Whole category.
I think exploitation is a strong word, but there are a lot of web challenges, yeah.
Yeah.
Next. So here are some things that you should know what the words mean. SSR, or server-side rendering, is all the rage now and 10 years ago. So if you have PHP or GoGen, I honestly don't know the library for Rust, but it's like Rocket or something, or Python Flask or Django. All those things take your input and then return HTML. There's no client-side rendering. And then you have SPAs, like single-page applications, where you have one page and it just does everything. So like Google Docs or Spotify or something like that. Makes your browser do all the rendering and the magic, and then does less work on the back end, but it's still pretty complex. 2 things called WebSocket and WebRTC. WebRTC is what Discord uses, theoretically, to let us talk right now. It's also kind of a security risk sometimes, and then WebSockets is like sockets in the web. You want to talk about WASM for like 2 sentences? Okay, so WASM, you take like Rust or Go or something, and then it runs in your browser and it's magic, or something like that. Anyway, if you know what these generally are, you're good.
Web magic. Okay, so basic architecture. So there's clients, which are like your web browser, and there's servers, which are like web servers. Whoa, spooky. So they speak over HTTP, HTTPS. HTTPS is HTTP over TLS, so a mouthful there. HTTP is by default port 80 TCP, and HTTPS is by default port 443 TCP.
So hopefully you know what TCP means. It's basically just TCP and there's UDP. You can Google it. We talked about it before. But.
Yeah. So then a lot of servers are LAMP or LAMP stack, which is Linux, Apache MySQL PHP, or Linux Nginx MySQL PHP. There's also WAMP if you really want to host your server on Windows. Yeah. And MySQL, just a database in general, is used to store web data a lot. It's a lot easier to store stuff in a database than it is to store stuff in like a JSON file for web, especially when you have a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Great, fantastic. So here's a list of cool web browsers, web clients that you might see. So this is kind of analogous to any other kind of client. So if you have like a Minecraft client, that's kind of analogous in this scenario. If you download like a cracked one, or like, you know what I mean. It change how you interact with the backend, but that's the only thing that you do. Kind of vibes. So Firefox is cool. Chrome, I guess. Internet Explorer is dead. You can talk about it.
Yeah. So virtual hosts. When you go to a website, you like do the DNS lookup and get IP address. But multiple sites can have the same IP address. And virtual hosts allow like two sites to be hosted on the same server. Kind of cool, kind of confusing. We'll go over this a little bit later with an actual example. But yeah, so virtual hosts, pretty much any decent web server is going to have something like that. And that allows you to have like site1.com go to one page and site2.com go to another page. Well, it's hosted on the same server with the same server application.
Eat.
So, different web servers. People can't really seem to decide what the actual percentage is, and of course it's hard because it's not like every web administrator's like, hey, I use this is my service. So just from scanning the web and what people can get from headers, there's roughly Apache and Nginx make up roughly the same percent, very high. So like 30% to 60%, people can't decide on those. And then other than that, there's a few other different things. So like Cloudflare's Cloudflare serving stuff, weird proxy stuff. Microsoft IIS, I don't know why you'd use that, but if you want to, have fun. Yeah, a bunch of other stuff. Kind of jank.
Moving on. All right, so we're going to head over into the cyberspace realm. If the app deployed to you successfully, then congratulations. If it didn't, you can pull it from the catalog, or you could just join me on this, which actually isn't set up. So hold on, I'm going to acquiesce this. Use Windows Terminal? Well, I need to first SSH. So we're going to open the web console. We're going to pop some sick shells, but like shells out of the box. Is this a server installed by default on this box? If you guys have any questions in the meanwhile, please vocalize. We would have questions up, but
no,
voice.
WAMP is not the new Cardi B song.
Oh my god. Oh, I can't type. So we're gonna try SSHing. Okay, well, so this is welcome to how to install SSH. So you type apt-install OpenSSH-server, and then it installs OpenSSH-server, as you might expect, quite predictable. And then it won't allow me to log into root as default, which is fine because I have a very secure DSU password-1 user. And meanwhile, I can tunnel out. Oh my god, my keyboard shortcuts. So if you start typing now, it'll actually just like let you live, which is kind of nice. I made 4100, right? Well, at least I hope it works usually. Haha, get cybered. Okay, now I have a tunnel. So if you guys want to hop on this box, feel free. Why does Control L not work? You said this was cool. So now I can SSH to DSU at devsec.club, port 4100, and then it's like, would I like to, yes, I would like to hop on, and it's password bank. So now you can't like really see local web server, but that's okay because you can't have a GUI box, or you can just curl it if you're cool. All right, we out here. So you see these web servers and you're like, how do I start to this web server you speak of? Well, first you need to install it. Can I do the honors?
So we like Nginx better. So if you want to, nope, you got to be sudo.
So you can just apt, which will work for Debian-based boxes.
Nginx.
Other ones might be like Pacman for Arch, Yum, or DNF for Red Hat. It's pretty much the same syntax though, so you just install it. Also note that non-Debian-based systems will call Apache 2 HTTPD, which can be confusing if you don't know what you're looking for. So when you install it, right, Galen just installed Nginx. So is it running? How we do? So how would we check that?
So if you do,
Do you want to make it bigger?
Yeah. Let's
Whoa, cyber.
System, CTL, status, Nginx.
then it'll say, wow,
boom,
active running, little green thing.
active running. Wow.
So if we curl localhost,
So if you curl localhost,
it's
then
like,
boom,
there's the,
you can see
there's the
there's
HTML.
a web page there. If we go over here and like,
Wait, you can still use it?
garbage. Yeah.
What the heck?
Yeah, iLab connections sometimes die.
But it's alive.
So if you go to localhost, you can see like, boom, welcome to Nginx. Super cool.
That is pretty rad. Okay, so if you want to stop it, you do stop. If you want to start it, a different one, etc., etc. You won't be able to run two at the same time if you're running on both 80, because it'll be like, tried to bind to 80, and then it'll be like, we couldn't do it. He restarted.
Yeah.
So common logs, like I was talking about in the previous thing, the Heatwave debrief, if you want to tail or just read the log, you can see exactly what hit our server. So if he looks up Nginx access.log, he should see one GET request from when he just looked at it.
Yeah. So right here, well, more
Yeah.
than one GET request.
Oh, well, okay, so what the heck?
Huh.
Is someone tunneling another thing out of it?
Lol invest. Okay, nice.
Interesting.
Sweet. Someone knows how to do SSH.
Get Austin. Thanks,
Okay.
Austin. You are here. Okay, let's stop that. Okay. So that's the log. Pretty rad, if you ask me. So as you know, the two big web servers, Nginx and Apache. Nginx has a few important files. Number one is nginx.conf, which tells it where to find the other files. So very cool, not confusing at all. And normally you have two important folders. You have sites enabled and sites available. So you have all the sites that you could possibly ever want, theoretically, in sites available. And then you symlink them, which is like a shortcut, to the enabled folder. And then if it sees something in the enabled folder, it actually renders it, right, and parses it.
So right here we have default as the site that's enabled right now, and you can have multiple in there.
Do you want ls log so you can see the symlink?
Yeah. Ooh. Okay, that's not the right directory.
Yeah, so that's
Sites enabled.
Sites. That's site.
I can't spell. Okay, yeah. So right here, default is symlinked to /etc nginx sites available default.
Right. So you put in available and then you symlink it to enable. That's best practice. You could just put the lower file in there. They won't know, but someone will look down upon you.
Someone's judging you. Yeah. So yeah. So if we look at
Nano. Oh, why am I so annoying?
So in here, this is just default configuration, but you can see it's like listening on port 80. You can tell it to listen on a different port if you are strange. Root right here, that's going to be where the files are served from. So that's your like / directory.
Yeah, so if you're running a web server and you don't know where it is, this is a really good place to look, and you just see where root is. Like if you don't know where your round cube instance is, good place to look.
Index, that's going to be like what files it finds in a folder. So if it gets to a folder and you like didn't specify what file you want to go to, then it's going to be like, I'll load the index. Yeah, so we have these location directives, and this says, so when you go to mywebsite.com/, then it will first try and see if there's a file that matches the URI you give it, and it will try and find a folder, and otherwise it will give you a 404.
So URI is just the thing you type in. It's uniform resource indicator, I believe. And everything starting with a hashtag is a comment. So there's very minimal code actually like being interpreted here.
Lots to explain. So right here, like this, this is back to that virtual hosts thing. Like if you wanted multiple servers, you could go down here and be like, this is only going to be like mywebsite.com. And then you can have another one that's like myotherwebsite.com. Yeah, cool stuff.
Pretty rad. Okay. So now we're talking about Apache, which very people like. WordPress likes it, I think. It plays pretty nicely with PHP and MySQL. You see all these like mod things. That's like extra functionality to add. Oh, okay. So you see right here it died because address already in use. So things that I said before are making sense. So if we want to start Apache, we're going to have to kill Nginx. Why does it take so long to process triggers? No, I'll just kill it. So we stop that, and then we want to start Apache 2. And then we can do some cool magic and be like start status, and then like, whoa, status running. So if I curl localhost, it'll give me a more verbose startup page. And if we want to see where this is, it's usually in var www.html. So we can say there's index n and then index debian. So if we go to localhost now on this box, it's a different page. Huh. Fantastic. That is not the right thing. Where are the slides? Okay. Located. So if you check out if you'll notice the pattern, usually it's in Etsy and then the thing, and then that.conf. At least that's the starter file. So this tells you see this is a screenshot of this thing right here.
In
there is a
questions, we have someone says connection refused. Could you give some more
yeah, it shouldn't
info on that?
Shouldn't say connection. I think you're.
Is that the SSH says connection refused?
That's probably
okay.
SSH connection
Never mind,
refused.
it's good now.
It's good now?
Yep.
Everything works? Okay, fantastic. So these are the directories. So let's say the var www directory. This says option indexes follow symlinks. So indexes means open indexes. If you're a fan of that one subreddit that posts open indexes, that's that. Follow symlinks means you find a symlink, like shortcut, you follow it. Moving on. Allow override is for HT access things. So Apache does this really whack thing where if you have a file called that, then it'll take parameters from it and then allow it to overwrite this. So this is kind of saying ignore those. And this is a IP whitelisting thing where it's saying require all granted. That's kind of weird, like linguistically, but it means allow everyone. So if I did, first let me show you how. If we went over to var www HTML and just removed everything, and then we made like hello, and then we we headed over, it should give me an index. So you see it does an open index, and you're like, wow, superb, because there was no index. So it just gave me an index. That can be confusing. I mean the index file, no index file. So it gives me an open index, which shows you get it. Everyone gets it. So if I open that back up, and then I'm like, indexes, not today. And then I write save it, and then I go like systemctl restart Apache 2. Then it fails because it never works. So I'm going to open that back up. My FG. You can actually turn off Vim case sensitivity. So it's now gone, and I killed it. OK, this is Vi. There we go. Now you all followed that. It works now, right? Perfect, 100%. If we check out this again, it should be like Pexant. Yeah. So forbidden. Oh, wow. What is that? Kind of cracked. So that's how indexes work. Ah, there's more Apache things. OK, so I already talked about HT access. So you can be like, allow override all or something, and then all your AT accesses will be like, I'm alive, and then do things. And if you're like doing Hivestorm or whatever, this is a good place to look. If you're doing in conf enabled or conf available, and then security.conf. This is a good thing. Like server tokens, you want that to be prod, which is the least. And then for tracing, you want to say no tracing, even though it's technically really not a security issue. Do it anyway, because it makes them happy. And similar to what's embedded in Nginx config themselves, there's ports.conf. This thing which tells it where to listen. And that's pretty much Apache. Oh my god, there's more. What the heck? So there's a lot of binaries that come with Apache, and you can see them all if you do this command, dpackage-l capital, and it'll be like Apache 2. It's like, here's a bunch of stuff. So there's some docs, there's some other stuff. I'm going to pipe this to less. And then A2N. So you can like A2N mod, A2N site. These are documentation, but whatever. So you can use all the helper things, or you can just symlink it yourself. And you can install this cool WAF mod security, which is kind of cool. Yeah, you can talk about that. I've talked for too long.
Yeah, so web servers, slight disclaimer, this is like a small amount of features on only 2 of them. I mean, it does make up a lot of the market share, but also we only touched a few small features on these ones so far. There's so much more you can do with Apache and with Nginx. So yeah, if you and if your web server won't start, you can do name of it -t, and it'll complain about the issues in config.
You can also do that with SSH, so it's just kind of a thing that may or may not work.
So web backends. So
You want to make it bigger?
nice. So web backends. So Apache, Nginx, those are on the front end. So that's what, well, not really the front end. They serve the front end. So when you try to connect to the web server, Apache or Nginx is what's actually like throwing the response back at you and being like, here's the web page. PHP is backend, behind the scenes, and that's what actually makes the page and actually puts stuff on the page if you have anything more complicated than like one simple static website. There's a bunch of different backends, so you could do like ASP.NET or Java or like Python Flask server or some weird jank like that if you want. PHP is by far the most common and most popular. For some reason, people hate PHP. Yeah, there are some bad things about the language and some weird inconsistencies, but not as much as JavaScript. And most people seem to just hate it because it's hated. And I don't know why. I kind of like PHP. It's fun. So in a lot of competitions where there is PHP as backend, so like if there's Apache and PHP or Nginx and PHP, and there's some janky PHP page, like the one I made for Heatwave, then it's good to harden PHP. So just doing a few simple things. Right here, I'll need my pointer. There we go. So allow URL f open and allow URL include. Prevent people from just grabbing other pages. So that can be bad if like they get some custom page up there and that page will go like grab some other page. Kind of jank. Yeah,
that
bad.
makes sense.
Limiting execution time's good. So if red team manages to get some sort of shell, they'd only have it for 30 seconds unless they do a good job of getting a shell. And limiting the amount of memory it's using, so you can't like use all of the memory. Just in general, a good thing to do. Helps with errors, but especially for security, yeah, good. If you aren't running a website that needs file uploads, don't enable file uploads. So that's probably a good thing to disable. And if you are, then set a max size. You don't want people to be able to upload like 200 gigabytes of data and fill up your server and everything dies. Another nice security thing, you can have a base directory. Open base directory means basically PHP will refuse to process any scripts that are not in this directory or one of its child directories. So that's good. Yeah, so if you have like one part of your website that has PHP on it and the rest of it doesn't, you might want to like set that so PHP will only work on that one part. Display errors. There's a lot of memes about that. If your site has a problem, it should not just paste out like a full essay on what exactly went wrong and what line it was and what the code was doing. Just display error 0. We'll just send like I think it's 500, error 500, which basically is like server didn't work. And from a security point of view, if the hacker is like trying jank stuff and they're like, here's a bunch of injection, and the server's like, this didn't work and here's why, then the hacker's like, aha, I know how to fix that. Versus if the server's like, it didn't work, then a lot harder to fix. And just in general, like it looks a lot cleaner if your server, if someone puts in a bad request and your server just responds with, that was a bad request, as opposed to, here's a bunch of errors. Expose PHP. So security by obscurity, bad, but also you don't need to be broadcasting what your exact PHP version is to everyone that comes to your website. Like if they do manage to figure out that you use PHP, then they don't necessarily know what exact version it is and what exactly it's vulnerable to. And then there's this nice setting, disable functions. So you can just disable stuff in PHP. And there's a lot of them. It kind of overflowed and then kept going like another page. There's a lot of them, but disabling some of these, so disabling things like, I don't know, getting the PID and listening on different ports and all sorts of stuff that you probably don't need in most applications. And if you do need it, then you probably know that you need it, so you can remove it from disable. But if you just paste like a big paragraph of a lot of PHP functions in there, there's a bunch of them online, and I think we have that paragraph in our PHP hardening.
Sure.
I don't know, probably. But you paste that in, and that will stop a lot of red team trying to break PHP jank. Yeah.
You might also break it yourself, so that's something to be careful of. If you're trying to kill web shells, you should worry about shell exec, system, popen, and like 2 others. But if this doesn't break it, then more power to you.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Oh wow, it's still going. SSL TLS on web servers. So HTTP is bad. Well, it's good. It's a good protocol, I guess. But in plain text, that's bad because people try to do things that are not stateless on web servers. Anyway, people can read it. HTTPS wraps plain text inside a TLS tunnel. Uses magic crypto math. So in order to make your browser trust the web server, it needs to talk to a big CA, which has the authority to make your certificate like valid. So if you've ever seen like, okay, well, let's talk about Let's Encrypt. So CAs used to be like, big fat cat business where everyone had to pay like $1 million to get a cert. And then Let's Encrypt came by and blessed the common population with certs. So you can do it automatically. All you need to prove is like you need to prove that you own the domain. It points to your box on the public internet. And that's pretty much it. And then you click the little buttons. So here's the DefSec server. And I guess a little bit of OffSec that does a bunch of things. So if you want to set it up yourself, you can do that. If you've ever seen this on Firefox, it means someone used a self-signed cert, or it was expired, or something else, usually self-signed. And that just means they're too poor to afford apt installing certbot, which is unfortunate. Or it's not publicly accessible to the internet. So there are the commands. These are the things. Oh, it's not on that side. These are the things you put in the Nginx config in the little website directive. And that's the command to generate your private and public keys, or the cert.
More on this next.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so quick demo. Demo time, fun stuff. So in Windows, it has ncat, and Linux like netcat. So let's do ncat-l1337. So if you just do this in a command prompt, or netcat in Linux, I don't know what you want to use in Linux. Then we go over to our web browser, and we try to go to localhost.
Got a little localhost there.
1337. Localhost 1337. Then your web browser will just kind of hang, not do anything. But if you look at this, it just sent a bunch of stuff to
Can you make it
your
bigger?
netcat session, yes, or
So
ncat.
those are the HTTP headers up top, like host. That's what you use for virtual host.
Yeah, so this is what the web server sees. This is what your actual request is. And if you were using like Wireshark or something, you'd be able to see this. So it's like saying, hey, I want / because you went to localhost :1337 / and the host is localhost, and all sorts of fun stuff like that. It gives you a bunch of information. So if we do this again, and I gotta kill that. So if we do this again and listen, and then we go to https ://localhost 1337 and maybe /pi. Then it's going to hang again. But if we go back over here, it's completely gargled, random garbage. Yeah.
See some hearts in there.
Yeah.
Some unions.
So it's now encrypted, and yeah, this does not look like all of my secrets that I'm getting from Facebook.com or wherever you go online. So yeah, HTTPS, good.
Rad. So, okay, we're talking about web proxies now. So proxies be like, you want this place? I got you, and then puts you somewhere else. So when you for example, when you go to questions.defsec.club, your favorite website, you go to the same box. Actually, I only have one box hosting all DefSec sites. It goes to localhost on 1157. In this case, it's just like a random 4-digit number. So you're actually hitting the something that's not exposed to the outside unless we're running Nginx. So here's what the code for that might look like. I'll use the proxy pass directive and then pass where it is. That's it. Sick. Magic. I guess we can. I don't know how to demo that easily. We'll see what the next one is. Oh. Did I close it?
No, just present.
I'm going to click everything. What? I literally clicked it. Explain that.
Yeah.
I did.
No.
Wow, what an awful. Windows sucks.
That's
Okay.
not Windows.
I think it's Windows.
It's Google Slides.
Okay, so as I said previously, here's a snippet of the defsec.club config. So you got like, my name's Galen, I have a pointer. If you listen on port 80, and then it basically says, stop being a plebeian and talk to me on HTTPS. So it rewrites it as host and request URI, and then it sends a 301, which means don't come back here. And then over here for listening on normal defsec.club, the root of all my static files, because if you're not running a static site, I don't think you're cool. And then root op defsec just has the HTML files. And then here the SSL certs managed by certbot. And the same thing over here. This is an example of virtual hosts. If you hit the IP address, it should just give you the first thing. So let's do a, you have NSLookup? Okay, the Kolb. So we see this is the IP address. Did that even copy it? So if I open in a web browser, it says my connection is not private because this is Google's way of saying bad cert. So I learned a cool trick from someone. You can type this is unsafe, and then it lets you through without clicking any buttons. So you see, I typed the IP address, and then it brings me to this, but that's not the thing I typed in. How rude of it, because that was the first one in its list of things. So right here, that's the first one that it hits, the first server directive that has an actual server name or an actual root. So when you go to the IP address, it gives you the first one. So if you're trying to debug like your site for a CCDC or whatever, and you're like, it's giving me the same thing, you're probably messing with virtual hosts. So an example, I like to go to questions.defsec.club. It brings me to a different site. Oh no, questions exposed. Why are you logged in? So I'll let Galen talk about his jank.
Yeah, so I also run Nginx because I recently found out that Apache is not as fun as Nginx. So yeah, I have the same thing, like upgrading. I have it written a little bit differently, but just redirect 301 redirect to HTTPS. So yeah, you got to use HTTPS. I also have this fun thing, so you can include other includes. So this is more of like a not CCDC competition thing, but fun stuff. So I just include this other file, and this file has some stuff like always allow the favicon and always allow robots.txt. And if you send me something that has like WP or WordPress in it, then it'll run this little PHP script, which generates a random error code and sends it back. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, also HTTPS, same cert stuff right there. So yeah, fun stuff. If you go to...
You're going to get a notification.
If you go to my website,
I don't type much.
So if you go to like my website /wp-admin, then it's like, error, this page isn't working because I don't have WordPress because I'm not a plebeian, as Change says.
I didn't say
But-
WordPress user complete.
They are. But it says HTTP error code 507. And if you refresh this again, oh, I got a working one. Then it's like new error code.
You're a troll.
Because, fun screwing with people. Like random error codes, yeah. Ooh, one of those ones was like something weird. Yeah. Fun stuff. But yeah. So this is some of that directive stuff. So this is a regex match if any of these things are found anywhere in what you're trying to get to. So yeah. Fun stuff. Other than that, this is some of how you do PHP. Yeah. This just makes sure that every other thing goes to my actual profile website, which is this nice index.php there. Yeah, that's about it.
Pretty cyber.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Any questions? Questions.defsec.club. What do I type to go past HTTPS errors?
What do you type to go past? Oh, this is unsafe. Thanks to Mr. Miller for that sick trick. It's pretty elite.
Yeah.
But that only works on Chrome because apparently Firefox is behind the times.
Cool. Anything else? Nope. Okay. Check the Discord here.
You can just, you don't want me to tab over to Discord. Okay, understood.
That looks like no questions. Okay.
Excellent. Thanks for
Cool.
coming to your local DevSec club.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Shane, stream.
Oh, right. That sounds fun.
Yeah, thanks for coming.